welcome. My name is Mr. Werman. I'm the math interventionist. I'm just going to do some quick videos on some reviews, to help you kind of get caught up if you forgot some things. So today we're going to talk a little bit about just multiplication. We're going to cover three things with this, which is the different signs, the process of estimating the products, and then using multi-digit numbers to actually multiply. Okay, so first of all, signs. So if you are just coming in as a sixth grader, or even if you've been here a little while, the sign you're most familiar with, of course, is something like this, where you have 3 times 5, and you have that kind of X that symbolizes that. So no longer will, as time goes on, we're not going to use it as much because we're going to start using variables. We don't want to confuse those X's with variables. So you may still see that here in the beginning of sixth grade, but as time goes on, you're going to see that much less. So other symbols you may see is just a dot. Okay, means the same thing, right? Or parentheses. Okay, there's another way to write it. Additionally, when we are doing things like variables later on, instead of 5, if we want to say a, you could say it like this: 3 times a. You could say it 3 dot a. You might say it 3a. You might just eliminate that multiplication sign altogether. So those are all ways. And lastly, if you're doing it sometimes in the computer, sometimes an asterisk can be used for multiplication symbol as well. Okay. All right, so that's just a simple symbol of how to represent multiplication. And of course, we all know that one's 15. But let's look at something a little more difficult, a multi-digit one, which we're definitely going to be coming across here. So, for example, let's use the example 485 multiplied by 32. Okay. First off, if it was, written like 485.32, right? And we want to write it in our vertical format, it's going to be easier. We're going to line up our numbers when we are multiplying. We want to line up those ones digits there, or the smallest number on the right, line those up. Okay. And then typically you want your larger number on top. It's just going to make it easier when you're actually multiplying and adding up those numbers. Okay. So simple enough. If we have something like 485 times 32, what we need to do before we even start it is to actually estimate our products. So estimation, right? Well, estimation is, as you know, you're just kind of giving a good guess of what the answer might be. So we want to estimate what that product is, what that solution is to this problem. So the easiest way to typically do that is if you're estimating something like this, you probably just want to estimate this to the hundreds, estimate this to the tens, and then it'll be kind of a simple estimation there. So if you have 485, the nearest 100, we look at the 4, the number behind it in the tens digit there is greater than 5. So we're going to actually round up. So if we were just to round this, we'd say it's about 500. And this we'd say is about, the 2, of course, is less than 5. So that's about 30. So it's about like 500 times about 30, right? So if we were to estimate something like that, and we have zeros, we know it's going to be 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3, and 3 times 5 is 15. So it's going to be about 15,000 is our answer, approximately. That's our estimation. Okay. Simple enough. So now let's look at this here, 485 times 32. Let's actually solve this problem. All right. So when we are multiplying, we simply enough go 2 times 5, as always, 2 times 5, 10, carry the 1. 2 times 8 is 16 plus our 1. So now we have 7, carry that 1 from the 17. 2 times 4 is 8, plus our 1 is going to be 9. So we have 970. Okay, cross those out to not confuse us. Now we're going to multiply the 3. But of course, this 3 is not just a 3, it's really this more like a 30. So we have to make sure we put down the 0 first before we multiply. So now 3 times 5 is 15. So 5, carry the 1. 3 times 8 is 24. So 24 plus our 1. So we get a 5, carry the 2. And 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 makes it 14. Okay. So now we have 970 plus 14,550. We'll just have to add those on up. since it's important that we keep these nice and lined up and neat, it's going to make sure we don't have errors later. So they are nice and lined up and neat. So we go zeros. 7 and 5 is 12. Carry that 1 again. That becomes a 10. Plus 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. And one more. Bring that 1 on down. Put a comma in there to make it a little bit easier to read. So we have 15,520, which of course is very close to our estimation. So I think we are correct, right? If we ended up with something like, say we forgot those zeros, and you ended up with something like this, you'd look at your estimation and go, well, something must not be right. Right? So that's why it's important to estimate. You can kind of catch those mistakes. Okay, so that is the correct answer, 15,520. Okay, let me do one more example of multi-digit multiplication, and I'll let you go there. And then if you have questions, you can always email me or come see me if that's possible. All right, so we have, try another one here. 213 times 49. 213 times 49. Okay, so the same thing. We want to estimate first. So usually, again, when we're estimating, it's very broad estimation. We'll just kind of look at our largest number and round to that nearest place value. So in this case, 2, we're going to round to the nearest hundredths. So it's going to be 200. Let me write this over here. 200. Okay. And 49 becomes about 50. Okay. So really, it's kind of like 200 times 50. So if we'd write this out in our long form, same thing again. We know we have 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3 zeros. And then let's just multiply these two numbers together. And we're at 10,000. Okay. So it should be around 10,000, give or take. All right. So now let's actually solve this problem. Find our exact answer. Okay. Again, we line them up. We put the larger number on top. It's going to make it easier for us. And we line up our numbers evenly. And we'll line up our numbers down here evenly. So again, 9 times 3, 27. So we got a 7. We carry the 2. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 2. So 11. Carry that 1. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 1 more becomes 19. Okay. Let's cross those out so we don't confuse ourselves later. Again, we add the 0 because we're not just multiplying 4. It's really kind of like 40 at this point. So 4 times 3 is 12. So we got a 2. We'll carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And 4 times 2 is 8. Okay. Nice and neat, lined up, becomes really important. 7, 3, 9 plus 5 is 4. Carry that 1. So this becomes a 10. So 10,437. Again, really close to our estimate. So if we're really far off, we'd go back and look and see if something not add up exactly, but pretty close to that rough estimate. So there we have it. We have our solution. So again, we covered signs. Don't forget the different types. Always estimate your products. It's just going to make it much easier. You're going to have a much better idea if you have the right answer. And then when you're multiplying, just make sure you line them up and do those same rules that you would with single digits, but just keep them nice and lined up and nice and neat. All right, thanks.